بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So we've reached chapter number 3, in which the author, may Allah forgive him, says, a student of knowledge should not neglect his wife. A student of knowledge should get married if he or she can. A student of knowledge should seek the rizq, the support, the facilitation to maintain one's wife, to look after one's husband. And at the same time, a talib al-ilm should not neglect his wife. And of course, this book is for men and women. But just like many, if not most of the Quranic verses, and many, if not most of the prophetic hadiths, it is min bab al-taghlib. And the khitab, the speech, the address, the command, the order, in most cases is addressed in the male tense. The tense of a male and not a female. And it includes and entails and overlaps females as well. But the khitab originally was towards men. Ya ayyuhal ladhina, and not allati. Okay? Waf'alul khayra, and then say waf'alna, etc. So therefore, the chapter is general for men and women, males and females, but the style of the Quran, the style of the prophetic hadiths, and there are also chapters in which we spoke on other issues as well for both sexes. So a woman, if she's a student of knowledge, she cannot neglect her husband. And this is reality. It's not something which is hypothetical. There are many sisters who study, and their husbands are general laymen, and there's no sin or crime in that. There's some women who are scholars, who are doctors in Islamic studies, and they give classes and lectures, and their husbands are nothing to be mentioned. So I've come across and I've known many sisters. Some of them were my students, some of them still are, and their husbands were normal people. And they were the talibat of ilm. And sometimes some of them will complain about, my husband doesn't want me to do this, or my husband is saying I'm doing this too much, etc. So the chapter is for both male and female. And what's important is that no matter how busy you are, no matter how much ilm you're studying and memorizing, you can give your wife her needs. And this is only done through time management, proper time management. It's only done through balance. And it's only done through, of course, al-isti'anatu billah. Oh Allah, make it easy for me. Oh Allah, allow me to do it. Oh Allah, give me the strength to do it. Oh Allah, allow my sleep to be a good, wholesome, healthy sleep, in which you wake up and you're energized, etc. So with seeking help from Allah, with the proper balance, with the proper time management, with the proper prioritizing, it can be done. Being married and being a father, being a stepfather, being a husband, and being a scholar, being a student of knowledge, it can be done, but only in that light. As far as if I don't have the proper balance, if I don't have the proper prioritizing of my time, management of my time, if I think I can do it by myself without Allah's help, then it's going to be very difficult, and in many cases and instances, impossible. And Allah Azza wa Jalla's help is sought. So on page number 6, it says, Hadith number 3. Al-Aswad narrated that one day he asked his teacher, Aisha, radiallahu anha, what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do in his house? She replied, كان يكون في مهنة أهله تعني خدمة أهله فإذا حضرت الصلاة خرج إلى الصلاة. طيب, serving his family. And I believe we took this chapter. We explained that chapter in detail. So let's move on to the next chapter, which it says, the great student of knowledge killer. The great student of knowledge killer. Hadith number 4, narrated Ka'b ibn Malik al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, ما ذئبان جاعيان أرسلا في غنم بأفسد لها من حرص المرء على المال والشرف لدينه. 2 wolves let loose among sheep are no more destructive to them than a man's desire for wealth and status, or for a man's desire for wealth, status, and honor, is to his religion. This hadith has been collected by Tirmidhi in his Jami'. So it says, the great student of knowledge killer. Something that has two characteristics. Number one, it kills. And number two, it kills greatly, abundantly. And that is for a talibul ilm to have his priorities out of sync, out of whack. Instead of seeking virtue, seeking knowledge, seeking understanding, I'm rushing and I'm fighting for position and for status and for leadership and for recognition. And I'm searching and I'm seeking money and financial gain and profit. That's what I really want with my knowledge. Instead of me seeking the knowledge for Allah, and anything that comes to me of status, of recognition, of people loving me, praising me, of you being compensated for your time, in the taba'an yani, it's secondary. That just comes as a perk. That comes as a fringe benefit. That comes as an incentive. And of course, you're a human being, you have to live. Bread costs. Flour costs. Salt, water, oil, eggs, milk, cheese, butter, those things, they cost. You have to have baby wipes and Pampers, regardless whether you throw away the diapers or whether you reuse them for your baby. You have to live. You live on this earth. So nothing is for free. And many people, as we have explained in many classes and lectures before, they have a great misconception concerning this concept. And we're going to get there after we make the sharh of the hadith. And as Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said, regarding ما يستفاد من كلام الله وكلام رسوله أولا, that which is taken and directly benefited from Allah's speech and the speech of His Prophet. Then we move on, so on and so forth. So the chapter heading talks about something which is dangerous and something which is vicious, and something which the student of knowledge has to be careful and mindful and cautious against. Okay, the previous chapters pertain to what you should do. In this chapter, what you should not do. We're entering a new section, a new category of topics. And that is the adab of talab and the mu'amala. How you deal with Allah and how you deal with yourself. Alright? And that is to beware that if you're a student of knowledge, there are people out there that don't want to see you to succeed. They don't want to see you prosper. They don't want to see you reach your goal. And from those people could be your own nafs. Shaitan, the shayateen of the human beings. And from that, are these things being sent your way and thrown your way. People being bought out. You getting money is one thing. You getting status is one thing. You being famous is one thing. Versus you seeking it and going after it and challenging people, because that forces you to do other things. If a person is involved in politics, it forces them oftentimes to do things such as lying, such as backbiting, slandering, attacking people, and such as praising oneself so much and wanting the acclaim and the recognition and the acknowledgement. And those things are acidic to the believer's intestines. It's destructive, especially the talibul ilm. So the great student of knowledge killer. So this hadith is reported by the companion Ka'b ibn Malik, not Ka'b ibn Ujrah, but Ka'b ibn Malik, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ardah, in which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Ma dhi'bani." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he goes on by negating, not affirming first, but negating first. And that is the thing that you could think about, which will be the most ruinous, most destructive to something. Then this other thing, this secondly mentioned thing, is even more destructive. بِأَفْسَدَ لَهَا. So we have two wolves. مَا ذِئْبَانِ. It doesn't say the two wolves. This type of specific, مَا ذِئْبَانِ, two wolves. In other words, from the styles of the Arabic language, this tenkir, it's nakira, it's not marifa. And a tenkir oftentimes could mean takfir, tafkhim, ta'mim, generality, abundance, greatness. In other words, these wolves are vicious. They're hungry, they're strong, and they want to eat. Ursila, they're sent upon ghanam. And once again, it doesn't say al-ghanam, ghanamin, nakira. In other words, an abundance of sheep and goat. In other words, they're helpless. It's at nighttime. The wolves, quote unquote, have the drop on the sheep. The sheep are eating, drinking, doing things the sheep do, sleeping, and these vicious wolves what? pounce on them. Okay? How much destruction is going to be spread? How much havoc will they wreak upon those sheep? With their sharp fangs and their powerful jaws, their agile, quick, strong legs and feet. What do you think they're going to do to those sheep? They're going to literally tear the sheep to shreds. Literally. They're going to shred them apart. And those wolves are going to feast upon the sheep, and they're going to have an orgy of violence and bloodshed. Literally. And that is the palpable, tangible, real-life example that the Prophet ﷺ gives us when a Muslim is diligent, hard-working, and he wants it to get wealth, honor, and status. And that's because when you seek wealth and you're after it too much, you have to compromise. You have to sacrifice. And oftentimes you compromise and you sacrifice your religion. And oftentimes you compromise and you sacrifice your own honor. Seeking honor, you sacrifice your honor. Think about that. You want fame, you want to be recognized and acknowledged, so therefore I have to sell out. And just think about Islam today. Think about YouTube today. Think about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram today. What would you do for followers? What would you do for more ads? What would you do for people to invite you somewhere? What won't you talk about? What won't you speak about? What will you allow? This permissible to do this? Oh, it's nothing wrong with being this in Islam. It's nothing. You sell out everything just to get more recognition, more fame, and more acknowledgement. So that would destroy your religion. And the Prophet ﷺ says, "Hirsil mar'i," a man, any man, let alone a Muslim, and let alone the talib al-ilm, who is supposed to be, I'm far from claiming that for myself, but the Muslim, the talib al-ilm who is supposed to be, al-muftarad, he's presupposed to be the elite from the Muslims. He's supposed to be the best from among the Muslims. He's supposed to be the one who prays at night more than the others, who fasts more than the others, who reads the Quran more than the others, who gives sadaqah more than the others. The student of knowledge is supposed to be the kindest to the orphan. He's supposed to be the kindest to the widow. He's supposed to visit the graveyards the most. He's a Muslim at its peak. That's what he's supposed to be. So therefore, if fighting and struggling for wealth and status will destroy any man's religion, what do you think about the talibul ilm? So this hadith here has been collected by Imam At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah ta'ala, and At-Tirmidhi declared the hadith to be sahih. And obviously this is a famous hadith which many scholars spoke on at length. And from the scholars who spoke on this hadith and this issue, rather the issue at length, was Al-Ajurri rahimahullah in his beneficial, magnificent work Akhlaqul Ulama, Characteristics of the Learned. Al-Ajurri rahimahullah, he spoke on this issue, unfortunately, of the fake scholar, the imposter scholar, the copycat scholar, the sellout scholar, the scholar who's using knowledge just for worldly gain. He spoke about this over 1,000 years ago in his book Akhlaqul Ulama. And from the scholars who came after Al-Ajurri and spoke about this hadith specifically even more and made a special book on it was Ibn Rajab rahimahullah. And that book, alhamdulillah, has been translated into English many years ago. Maybe 20 years ago, even greater than that, from the UK. Okay? Craving Wealth and Status. And in the book, Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, in Arabic and in English, he quotes from Al-Ajurri. Alright? And this is it's very scary and it's very serious and dangerous when you think about it. And that is that the issue of imposters, copycats, fake, phony, imitation is nothing new. It's been around forever. Okay? That's first and foremost. Secondly is, someone may not necessarily be fake or phony or an imposter, but they may be an error. And obviously, if you keep doing the error, it may lead you to being dominated by counterfeit. And now you're totally fake. Before, you had this sin. You had this problem. You had this flaw as a student of knowledge. But now that 20% became 70%. It dominated your life and your character and your time. And obviously, al-wasfu lil-ghalib. Al-wasfu lil-ghalib. Someone is an obedient slave all of the time, 24/7? No, but meaning ghaliban. A disobedient slave, yani ghaliban, outwardly, publicly, over and over again. So that's very dangerous. As far as some of the misconceptions, as we have explained, then some of those misconceptions are, if you're a student of knowledge, you shouldn't have a job. From those misconceptions are, if you're a student of knowledge, you cannot be compensated for knowledge. You should not work as an imam unless you're a volunteer imam. If you're under a salary, if you get a stipend from the masjid or the center, you're a fake imam, and you've fallen into this hadith. From the misconceptions regarding this hadith and this issue is that there are no politics in Islam. There's no politics in Islam. There's no such thing as leadership. There's no such thing as voting. There's no such thing as people leading, and the Muslims just, live in a group, in a congregation. They live, they die, they have children, they own businesses, and that's it. Class. From the misconceptions pertaining to this issue is that if Allah makes you famous, and if Allah gives you popularity, you're seeking it and you want it. Says who? Imam Ahmed. How famous was Imam Ahmed? When Imam Ahmed died, do you know how many people attended his janazah? Hundreds. Al-Dhahabi said, khala'iq. He said all types of creatures came to Imam Ahmed's funeral. Khala'iq. And an overabundance of people came to witness Imam Ahmed's, not his life, not his lecture, but his what? His death. So how famous do you think Imam Ahmed was? And Imam Ahmed is well known. We don't know what was in Imam Ahmed's heart. We only have the best thoughts of Imam Ahmed. But it's well known that he would oftentimes say, Ubtulitu bishuhra. I've been tested and afflicted with fame. So, did that stop Imam Ahmed from writing his Musnad? It didn't. Did it stop Imam Ahmed from standing up to the Khalifa and saying that the Quran wasn't created? It didn't. Did that stop Imam Ahmed from refuting people? It did not. None of that stopped him. Imam Ahmed still was on his course. So many people, they think that if you become famous or popular, stop teaching. Don't post a class. Don't do a lecture. Don't do a live stream. Don't sign an autograph. Don't shake a person's hand and give someone a hug because that's adding to your shuhra. What is this kalam? Another misconception pertaining to this is, I have the ability to look into your heart directly. I know what your intention is. You want to make yourself a scholar and disregard the real scholars overseas in Saudi Arabia. You think that you're the scholar and no one else in the whole world is a scholar. That's your intention. How do you know what's in my heart? How do I know what's in your heart? And these things are extremely dangerous. All right? So what's important is seeking wealth and status is one thing. Receiving wealth and status is another. Hating it is one thing. Loving it is another. And the last thing that I'll say regarding this is that the moment that you attack someone and you say that they're not sincere, they're seeking shuhra, they're seeking money, they're seeking women, they're seeking power, they're seeking status, they're seeking followers, they're just doing it to make money. How can you have a GoFundMe? How can you have a donation? How can you charge for a personal session, etc., etc.? The moment you open up the door to attack people, the door is automatically opened up for you to be attacked. So if you call someone egotistic or narcissistic, or if you call someone wanting money and so on and so forth, there are other terms that psychologists and therapists use for you. The one that's pointing the finger has this issue and this ism and this isticism, etc. So it's very dangerous. If you can see someone in the rearview mirror, that means they can what? They can see you looking. So be very, very careful of pointing the fingers at others, all right? Looking for flaws and faults in your enemy without protecting yourself and neglecting the chink in your armor, all right? So talibul ilm, in the beginning stages, he should focus on memorizing, sitting with his teachers, learning, and devoting his youthhood to sucking up and sponging up the knowledge. If and when he is needed to teach, if and when he is needed to give benefit and to help out, he should accept that honor and he should accept that responsibility and honor. And he should not allow these misconceptions to stop him from his dawah duty. All right? But the problem comes in, I'm just in the beginning of my studies, already have a YouTube channel, already teach this class, already do this, already. And my percentage is grossly imbalanced. I study 30% and teach 70%. That's wrong. For someone that's been studying overseas for years, maybe, but not me, the beginner. Okay, I haven't mastered this science that I'm teaching. All right, and of course, fame and money and status and women and popularity, these things can be very dangerous. And if you mishandle them, they can handle you. So al-hadar, al-hadar. But hadar does not mean ghulu, extremism. Hadar does not mean misconception. And hadar, being cautious, does not mean mixing an apple with a watermelon, as most people do. And Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best.